Recruit a team of teenagers with attitudes.
All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freyway, and I'm here with my co-host, Ken-chan, and we are here to talk about one of the most sensational TV series in the 90s, Power Rangers. I think Kenny and I, we both grew up on this show, I want to say.
For sure.
We're 90s kids, so this is going to be a
lot
boomer
of trouble
episode.
because of this show.
Were you one of those kids that used to fight the other kids using the shit you saw on the show?
Yes! I beat the shit out of kids.
Oh my God. I was expecting you to be like, no.
I beat the I remember there was this one daycare I went to, and they banned even talking about Power Rangers, right?
Damn.
And every, I don't know, maybe once a month or whatever, they'd watch a movie or watch a show. They'd let you bring a show in, and they'd rotate it. And then I would always try to bring in Power Rangers because I had a couple Power Ranger VHSs.
Yeah.
And they never let me watch any of them. So
what's a VHS for the people who don't know?
A VHS is essentially a media file like YouTube, but instead of YouTube, it's like if you go back a step and it's like a DVD, or Blu-ray. But instead of Blu-ray, it's before Blu-ray, it's DVD, and before that it was VHS. It's basically just like a tape, and it plays YouTube videos before YouTube existed.
The way you describe that is wild.
I feel like
it plays YouTube videos. Like, what the fuck? Oh God, we've come such a long way.
But that's my way. My way around it was one day I brought in, it was a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers like Christmas special, and there was no fighting in it. It was just like a Christmas episode that was all holly jolly.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna watch Power Rangers somehow in this fucking place.
You were
and
such a smart kid.
Christmas episode in.
Yeah, I love the Power Rangers. I grew up in a time when it came on, I think at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And at the same time, Judge Judy used to come on. So I would have to literally come downstairs because it was the only TV in the house, in the living room, that had I guess whatever channel Power Rangers came on. It was the only TV in the house that had it. So I would come downstairs, my grandmother would be watching Judge Judy, and I would just stare at her. Literally fucking stare at her until she would change the channel for me or ask me if I wanted to watch something. And a lot of times she obliged, and I got to watch Power Rangers that day at 5 o'clock. And that shit used to be a dopamine rush out of this world. I loved Power Rangers. Rita, the opening, which is super iconic. Go, go, Power Rangers. Everyone knows that fucking song. At least you were born in the 90s. You definitely know it.
After 3,000 years, I'm free. It's time to conquer Earth. She comes out of a fucking trash can.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
It's something like that.
It looks like it has like a lid. I know it does have a lid. It's like a metal lid, and she's been sealed, and she comes out all happy. So I guess to start this episode off, one of the things I didn't know until very recently, and I'm talking about in the last like 5 or so years, I had no idea that Power Rangers was actually a Japanese show.
Yep,
and
Super Sentai,
and it's just dubbed over with American voices, and then obviously all of the parts where you see the American actors, those are really them. But the fight scenes, and like when they're in the robots and when they're fighting against the villains and Rita and all of those things, those are all Japanese scenes and just dubbed over. I had no fucking idea about that as a kid.
Yeah. What's interesting is that it started off that way, and then as the seasons went on, they started to make more and more American content. So, for example, if you see this picture, if you saw the preview Fraser put up on Facebook, or if you are watching this on Patreon, there's a background and it's all the Rangers. And what you'll notice is around their necks is like really, really thick. These thick, like white collars.
Yeah.
When you see the thick white collars, I forget which one it is, but I think the thick white collars are from the Japanese suits, and then the American suits had these like really thin white collars. So you can see between seasons, or sometimes even in an episode, if the Rangers have like the really thick collar from the first season, then it's like the Japanese footage, and if it's like the thin collar, it's the American footage and all this other stuff. Yeah, another thing is like the Green Ranger, and like those original Rangers were from that season of Super Sentai. But when they brought in the White Ranger, so all the scenes with the White Ranger with the original 5, those are all American scenes, because that White Ranger actually didn't even exist in that season of Power Rangers. He was from a different season of Super Sentai. So they started like mixing season and mixing source materials and stuff.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
When you saw the White Ranger, that White Ranger with like the Mighty Morphin Rangers, those were like American scenes because they didn't even exist in the same scenes in Japan.
So there was a lot of recording with the American actors in costume and all of that type of stuff as well, I guess when necessary. But
it mostly happened like after season 1, like season 2, 3, etc.
Yeah. But yeah, Power Rangers was the shit. So I don't know, was it McDonald's who had the morphers? Where do we get the actual little morphers from?
McDonald's had a cheap morpher.
Yeah.
There was like a real morpher you could get from Toys R Us that had like a nice gold coin that had some weight to it.
Yeah, I remember the gold coin. I used to throw the gold coin.
But McDonald's did have morphers, but I remember those morphers were really cheap.
Okay.
I think it had like a plastic.
I had every single one. So I had whatever one came from McDonald's, and I had the Toys R Us one that actually made the noise, dun, 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 which some people mistake for Kim Possible, but like that shit is definitely Power Rangers.
Whoa, slow down. Slow down. All right.
All the OGs know. Yeah, I had morphers. I had all the little gold coins that you can switch out, so you could be Mastodon or Pterodactyl, Sabersaur, whatever they were. And I would definitely go to school. They were hyped as fuck.
He was so cock diesel. Like,
the whole premise of Power Rangers is honestly just a lot of posing, martial arts, and teenage angst. Like that is literally Power Rangers in a nutshell.
Shit.
As I was watching a recap, I noticed that they just pose a lot.
They do so many. Speaking of angst, one of my favorite episodes, I had this on VHS. The episode's called "Happy Birthday, Zack," and it's Zack's birthday, and he thinks everybody. He's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" And they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "So, we doing anything today?" And they're like, "No, I mean, I gotta go, whatever."
Yeah, they all act like they don't know his fucking birthday.
Yeah, and so he feels like everybody forgot his birthday. And what really happened is they're planning a surprise party. And so like Zack goes out and he's like randomly walking on the side of a mountain. And he's just like anxious, like, man, I can't believe they forgot my birthday. And he's like throwing rocks and shit. And then out of nowhere, Rita creates like the Black Knight, and this fucking super soldier comes out and starts beating the shit out of Zack when he's by himself.
I don't remember this.
And then they get into a rumble, and then the Rangers come and save him. And then Zack goes to a surprise party. He's like, "Oh, you guys didn't forget my birthday."
Right. But you almost let me get fucking jumped out there, you assholes. So I remember the Green Ranger originally was evil. He was under Rita's spell. And we talked about this in our Patreon exclusive episode that just came out this week, where we talked about toys on that episode, like both childhood toys and adult toys. So if you guys are subscribed to the Patreon, you can check that out. But anyway, in that episode, we mentioned how the Green Ranger was such a fucking bully, such a gangster. He literally beat them out of their Zord. Like he went into their Zord and beat their asses.
Ran their fucking fade.
Yes, literally you see them getting thrown out of their own Zord. Like get the fuck out the club. Those really like low budget fall scenes.
Dude, it was dope. They go like when he jumps in the fucking. It's a 5-episode arc. It's called Green with Evil. I've watched that arc so many times.
Is it safe to say that the Green Ranger's your favorite?
By far, dude.
Okay.
It's not even fair though, because like all the Rangers are cool.
Yes.
When I grew up, like before the Green Ranger existed, my favorites were the Red and the Black Ranger.
Yeah.
Mainly just because like the colors red and black are the sickest, and I think their suits look the sickest.
They do look cool.
And then I just really liked Tommy and Zack. I felt like they were the two strongest Rangers when I was younger. Before, I mean, not Tommy. I'm sorry, Jason and Zack. Before Tommy came in. But anyway, but then they bring in the Green Ranger, and he's got that gold vest, and the gold vest is out of control.
He looks stronger than all of them. You can tell he's the fucking OP one of them all, and he has his own Zord, which is so unfair.
Yeah, he's got the Godzilla Zord.
They all have to share a fucking Megazord. I guess technically they have their own, but like they never really use them individually. They mostly use them combined. And they got a little cockpit.
There's a couple episodes where they fight with like
just apart.
Jason will fight with Justin the Tyrannosaurus. I actually remember when he fights with the Tyrannosaurus, there's a move the Tyrannosaurus does. I actually just remember this, where it jumps back on its tail and then it like leaps forward and kicks you.
Which a Tyrannosaurus could never do that. There's no world where a Tyrannosaurus could jump off its fucking tail. There is no world where that's a thing. There is no fucking world where that's a thing.
That's what the Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord did, baby. Okay,
I think Tyrannosaurus are already scary enough without being able to jump off their fucking tail and vault themselves into somebody feet first. Like, I think that they're already terrifying. But go off, King.
Yeah, man. And so anyway, but yeah, the Dragon Zord though was like it was its own fucking.
It was big.
force.
It was way bigger than everyone else's individual. Like if they ever had a one-on-one,
it was as big as the like the combined Megazord.
It was, yeah. It was so unfair. And then he had a little fucking flute sword that he played. Dun, 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 dun.
That shit was fire.
Yeah, I love that.
When he was evil, he had the Sword of Darkness, which was also a dope ass looking sword.
Yes.
And
he has the Riku storyline.
Yeah, he had some sick fights too, because the way they built that storyline up was kind of fun. Like, it started off with Tommy comes to school, and then him and Jason are, like, in a martial arts tournament, and they tie, and then, like, Tommy ends up becoming evil, Rita makes him his ranger, he becomes evil, he just becomes, like, a dickhead, and he, like, bullies people in school or something.
Yeah.
And then they fight, he fucks them up, they capture Jason, he fights Jason, like, in this dark realm, and Jason doesn't have his morpher, and then they finally have a final fight where it's just the Red Ranger versus the Green Ranger on a beach. Shit is fire. So, in the Japanese version, they're brothers. The Red and the Green Ranger are brothers.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Because you can tell they're both leaders. They're both alpha males, right? Like the Red Ranger and the Green Ranger, they're very clearly alpha males. They're both the leader of the group in a way. I guess the Green Ranger's like the de facto leader. But yeah, that's very obvious that, those two would be vying for who's the main ranger, so to say. Yeah. So I'm not surprised by that. The whole brother thing, that sets up a cool storyline. The Japanese they're big into that. I'm noticing that a lot of other Japanese media is kind of connected to this when you think about it too, because not only are the Japanese really, really big on mecha, because like anything mecha, right? Especially in like Voltron, which is also obviously Power Rangers inspired by that. But also Godzilla, right? Because the Green Ranger, his Zord comes out of the ocean. And it looks like Godzilla. It is just Godzilla. Yeah. It's green. It's Godzilla. It comes out of the water. It shoots like fucking lasers out of its mouth, and it shoots the missiles, the little finger missiles it has when he plays the one note.
The fucking missiles that come out of the fingers are so fire.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times me, my nerdy ass kid, because you're playing with toys and shit, I would be like a Zord. I would like put my hands up like, and I would fucking wiggle my fingers like I'm shooting missiles and shit.
I did the same stuff. And we talked about this in our toys episode too, but I had a lot of the Zords, like the actual Zords. I remember every Christmas I would get one or two of them and I would just play with them and try to mix them together and do all types of weird shit with them. But I definitely had a lot of the Zords. And I think we also talked about how we had the actual Power Rangers toys where the chest and the head kind of switch. So like they can be in their human form, and then if you like twist them, the head becomes the morphed version of the head.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, man, the Rangers are sick. I got so many fucking Power Rangers memories, man. Like, I remember watching so many VHSs. I remember people making fun of me. One of my uncles, I remember, because I would go over his house a lot, and he's a little bit older than me. Obviously, he's my uncle. But I would always go there, and I would watch like VHS tapes there, and he'd make fun of me, and I'd be like, man, it's so cool. I was a Power Ranger, I think 4 years in a row for Halloween.
Yes, that was my life as well. My life was very that. My early years, I remember being a Power Ranger often. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was the Red Ranger, the Black Ranger, the Green Ranger, and the White Ranger for Halloween.
I was never allowed to be the White Ranger, but I was able to be the Black Ranger, obviously.
Wow.
The Red Ranger, the Gold Ranger, who was also just black. And
that's true.
I think I was the Blue Ranger, but so you said your favorite is the Green Ranger, hands down. That's not a hot take.
Yeah.
That's very.
That's not a hot take.
That's not a hot take. That's a very common.
I don't remember what episode it was. It might have been with, Joe Girlando, maybe.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about spending money that we shouldn't spend.
Oh yes.
And I remember saying like I didn't do it, but there was one time when I was 22 where I almost spent like a fucking K on an authentic Green Ranger helmet that I could wear.
Oh, that'd be fire. I'm sure it looked amazing.
It looked so fucking
nice
good.
And shiny.
And I was so close to buying it.
Well, if we ever become rich,
goddamn close.
If we ever become rich, right, and you get a really nice house, a really nice mansion, or whatever,
man,
you can get like a display case and just have that helmet.
Dude, I'll get a whole Green Ranger suit, like a real deal. That would be suit.
fire.
Like, not a Halloween suit. Like I'll get a real deal.
Yeah, one that fits you and everything. That'd be amazing. But yeah, so my favorite Ranger is actually from all of the series is the Gold Ranger. That was like he had the Megazord Pyramidas, He was outrageously more powerful than all the regular Rangers of his season and probably everyone before that. But Pyramidas, it literally was a pyramid it came on the ground and shot this laser up into the sky and it like drove down at the enemy. And usually that just killed them. For like a lot of episodes, that would be enough. You didn't even really get to see Pyramidas do anything a lot of time. Like it would just laser beam, the enemy would just start exploding, and then it'd be like, all right, Gold Ranger saved the day. But eventually it actually did show itself. And then every time they get to a really difficult fight, the Zords will start combining. I just love the way he looked, because just like the White Ranger and the Green Ranger, where they had that gold, the Gold Ranger was predominantly black, but he had the gold stuff. And black and gold just go so well together.
So fucking good.
Like, you can't beat black and gold. That's just a combo that is timeless. It looks so clean. And he had like this cool, his helmet, the symbol, like, how in that season, what was that, Zeo?
And they had like different symbols, like a triangle or a circle.
Yeah, their helmets on the front, like the face of their helmet, they all had these unique symbols. And the way his look was like a T, it was actually kind of a symbol, I think it's for heaven, in Japanese or whatever. I remember it's like a T, but then it has like 2 lines instead of just a 1. So like a lowercase T combined with a uppercase T or something like that.
I think it was 3 lines, and I only say that because if I remember correctly, I think each of their fucking shapes were supposed to correspond to like a number, right? So like I think like a circle was like 1, the triangle was like 3 points for like number 3.
Yeah.
And since he's the 6th Ranger, I think it had like 6.
It is 3. Yeah, you're right. It's like a T, a lowercase T, and then it also has like the bottom line too. Yep, you're absolutely right. He looks so fucking cool.
But I'm looking at him now. Fuck.
Yeah, the Gold Ranger was my favorite. I was him one Halloween, and I actually wanted to wear the costume again the following year, and it didn't fit.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was going to be a thing.
I wore specifically the Green Ranger one after Halloween. I wore that outfit almost every day, like for pajamas.
Oh wow!
That Green Ranger Halloween costume got fucking. My parents spent good money on it. All right, like that shit wasn't a one and done.
Yeah, he had like the Gold Ranger had this fucking staff-like thing, this staff-looking weapon. I had that in real life, and it made a bunch of noise and lit up and everything. It was so cool.
All the 6 Rangers had some random extra weapon. Like the Green Ranger had his dagger flute. The White Ranger, who was still the Tommy, had that fucking talking tiger sword.
Yeah, I love that thing.
Yeah, it used to sword talk shit.
Yeah, I was about to say, it used to say little quips.
Yeah. And then, oh man, the White Tiger Zord was fucking
White Tiger was insane. White Tiger was insane.
Also, did you go see the first movie in theaters?
Oh, of course. My dad took me.
Yeah.
Ivan Ooze was really cool too. I had the goo. So we talked about this again in our Patreon exclusive episode, but one of the toys that I had as a kid was just slime that you would get from the supermarket in one of those little quarter machines, right? The green slime. But then when the Power Rangers movie came out, they made the Ivan Ooze slime, and it was the purple shit from, it looked like it was from the movie. So I definitely had that. I was so spoiled. But yeah, I had that. So I'm thinking about it now because I got like everything that I saw on TV. You know how kids point at shit on TV, they see and they like, I want this.
Yeah.
My parents would just get it. And it's all because I was like a straight A student. So they'd be like, okay, if you get good grades, you can get whatever you want. But if your grades aren't good, then like you can't get it. So that would be like honestly, my motivation for being smart in school had nothing to do with actually wanting to be an intelligent human being. It was literally motivated by toys and later on video games.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a bunch of shit from the show, and I had the slime, and I remember seeing the movie with my dad. My dad took like me and my best friend at the time. He would take us to see like X-Men, the Power Ranger movies, like certain, Spider-Man, probably the first Spider-Man ever. But yeah, he would hook us up and do that. That movie was really good. And apparently, just a quick little fact on that movie, the budget for that movie was $15 million, and it made $66 million, which is amazing, right? That's like a little bit more than 4 times your money. But not only that, it is the only Power Rangers movie that didn't straight up bomb in a box office. Like every movie following that did really, really poorly. And I know they did a reboot a couple years ago of a Power Rangers movie, but even that one didn't do too well. And supposedly there's talks of another Power Rangers movie coming out, in the near future.
It's weird because I remember I saw Power Rangers Turbo movie in theaters as well. And it's weird because like I liked Power Rangers Turbo the movie. I remember they brought back Jason and Kimberly, which was cool. And I also remember when I was a kid, I definitely had a crush on
Kimberly.
Well, yeah, Kimberly, obviously.
Yeah.
Kimberly was like my first crush ever.
I had a crush on Kimberly as well.
from Turbo. I think her name's Divatox. I think her name might be.
Whoa.
She was like the main. She was like the main villain
she had
of Turbo.
Colored hair, right? Like purple, like her hair was.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
That sounds familiar.
But she had like a suit, like she was showing skin and shit for a young. Also, yeah, she was. Yeah, she was randomly bad when I was a kid. I don't know if she's still bad. I got to look her up.
I used to always be invested in the storyline with like Kimberly and Tommy and Jason. It was like a little love triangle type of thing going on there or something.
I think I might have mentioned this in the toys episode, but I played with like Dragon Ball Z toys and Power Ranger toys and all that, and they all the different toys fight each other. And all I'm saying is, whenever Vegeta had a victory lap, Kimberly got dicked down by Vegeta. Kimberly caught this saying pride. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Not Kimberly being Trunks' mom.
Listen, man. Listen.
Damn.
Trunks is already kind of a Power Ranger.
Yeah. No, he really is. Yeah, I really enjoyed the toys and everything. And then the show was just amazing. It's such an iconic theme song. The costumes, like we said, we were Power Rangers for Halloween most years when I was really like under 10. Pretty much every year I wanted to be a different Power Ranger. And then you remember they came out with, so this is from the movie too, because they lost their original morphers. Zordon got fucking destroyed by Ivan Ooze. That scene is so amazing, by the way. It reminds me of Palpatine from Star Wars.
Dude, when you see Zordon's body like on the fucking thing.
Yes, and it's like glass all around him.
Yeah.
And I think he like fucked over Alpha too. Alpha was the little, it was like their R2-D2 and yeah, he was like a combination of the two. It's like really Star Wars inspired now that I think about it too. With the whole robot that's all quirky and it kind of moves its arms in that kind of way. CP3O and R2-D2 combined basically making these funny noises and ay. And yeah, so I remember Ivan Ooze comes in and he's looking, he's like, oh, this is a nice place you got here, Zordon, and everything. Just talking trash. Zordon can't really do anything because he doesn't have a physical body. And then Ivan Ooze just starts to electrocute like random parts of the room and destroy shit. And Alpha gets, electrocuted, which he's a machine, so it ruins him immediately. And then Ivan Ooze just goes on a rampage, starts using his force electric to destroy Zordon and everything in there. And the Rangers, I guess their powers were connected to Zordon, right? So when they tried to morph, it didn't work anymore.
Yeah, it was like something called the power grid, and he like took down the power grid, and and then that's when they went on like the thing, and they got like the ninja.
Yes, they went into a forest, and this one chick comes out of nowhere, and she beats their ass, and she's like, "LOL, psych, I'm actually here to help you guys," and she gives them the Ninja Ranger powers, and I thought those were really cool too. And I think,
I brought the Falcon, the White Falcon, because that was the White Ranger's new Zord. Was
I gotta be
Falcon.
white?
Hey man, I don't know what to tell you, but the fucking White Falcon was a sick ass Zord because it also similar to the Dragon Zord with the missiles from the fingertips.
Yeah,
the White Falcon had like
wings together. Yeah,
from like the feathers. Yeah, dude, I remember. I don't know what grade, maybe 3rd grade or whatever. Dog, I brought every time there was show and tell, they would have like a little show and tell for the kids. You could bring something in. I brought that in every single time. They're like, all right, we know what it is. I'm like, you're going to hear me talk about it again, baby. This fucking White Falcon is the shit.
Yeah, I brought in Pyramidas for sure to show and tell. I forgot about show and tell, but yeah, I definitely bought in Pyramidas. I bought in the Zeo Megazord and also the original Megazord I had. And then you could fuse them with all types of other shit. But yes, show and tell in school was a big deal. And we weren't really allowed to bring in toys outside of show and tell days. But I would still sometimes bring, like how you did, I would sometimes bring my toys anyway. Like I didn't care. And I would just have them in my backpack. Yeah, you just have them in your backpack and you show your friends during recess or something like, yo, look what I got in my bag. And you just have I had the Green Ranger sword like in my bag. And then one time, I'll never forget this, that shit started going off in my bag on its own. And I was frantic because in my school, they would confiscate your shit and they'd be like, oh, you don't get this back until June. So like, if you got something confiscated, in December or January, you're not getting it back for almost 6 months. That's insane. So I like freaked out. I started going off, making the noises. And that nothing ended up happening. The teacher just like kind of pretended like they didn't hear it. But now I realize as an adult, like they definitely heard it, but I guess they just didn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another scene, I remember when they fucking skydive and Tommy just being the badass that he always is, he has like a snowboard. He's like skydiving with a snowboard.
Oh yeah.
Like,
that's how the movie opens too, kinda, yeah.
Yeah. They like skydive in and he's got a skyboard.
I kinda want to watch that movie again. Now that we're talking about it, the nostalgia starting to kick in.
It's a sick movie.
Yeah,
like, I'm sure it's probably like really campy, and there's stuff that we'll laugh at now. But it's still,
I think it
from what I
holds up.
remember, it's still really fun.
I
Like,
think
it's a fun movie.
Yeah, like obviously I'm not gonna judge it by the 2022 standards of CGI, and you can probably see wires and stuff. I remember back in the day, I definitely could see the wires on certain scenes, especially when they were Zords. You would literally see cords attached to certain stuff. But now, yeah, I'm not going to judge it. Like, I want to watch it just to see, because as I was recapping Power Rangers on YouTube today, just before this podcast, I was in my feels. Like, a lot of the scenes that I would look at, like top 10 most iconic Power Rangers moments, some of that shit just had me in my feels. And just remembering, like, oh yeah, this did happen.
Dude, there's some really good moments. I legit fucking cried, I remember, when there's this scene, I don't remember what season it is, but it's kind of like the culmination of shit, and all of the bad guys fucking launch like an assault on like the their home base.
Yeah.
And they like break in, and it's like, and I think that's when they have to escape to space. I think that's like when Power Rangers in Space starts, because the command center just gets assaulted, and they end up like getting in a spaceship, and I think that's when Power Rangers in Space starts, maybe.
Yeah. That sounds somewhat familiar. Yeah, I don't remember all the ins and outs, but
I just remember, this is super random, but Power Rangers Turbo, which is before In Space, I think. Power Rangers Turbo, the leader of the team was TJ, and his actor's name is Selwyn Ward, and Selwyn Ward is the first black leader of the Power Rangers.
Yep, I do remember that, and it's Black History Month, so shout out to that guy, whatever you said his name was. Shout out to him.
There was a video I remember watching years ago by like some YouTube channel called Black Nerd Comedy, and he had Selwyn Ward, the actor, on, and they were talking about that, and like they did like a little cut, and it was like, Selwyn Ward, first black leader of the Power Rangers.
So since you mentioned what came first and everything, I'm going to go through the 24 sequels of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, because there were a lot. So after Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is season 1, or the first iteration, there were 24 sequel shows, which is insane. So you got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, Power Rangers in Space, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, then Lightspeed Rescue, then Time Force. Now, after that, you got Power Rangers Wild Force, Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, Power Rangers SPD, Power Rangers Mystic Force, Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, Jungle Fury, that just sounds wild, and RPM. And then the most recent incarnations of the franchise, Power Rangers Samurai and Super Samurai, and then Power Rangers Megaforce, Super Megaforce, Power Rangers Dino Charge, Super Dino Charge, and then Power Rangers Ninja Steel, Beast Morphers, and the upcoming Dino Fury, which is probably already out by now. But yes.
You know, a couple of those things, I think it was Dino Thunder, or one of those Dino ones.
Yeah, there's a bunch.
That one brought back Tommy.
A lot of them did, apparently.
Yo, Tommy, one thing I really like about him is that, you know, obviously I don't know him as a person, but I think it's cool that
Jason David Frank
legit loves, Jason David Frank. He legit loves like the franchise, and he always comes back and does things for it. He's a big part of the franchise, and I think that he became a main character again in one of the recent seasons. I was reading about that. So I don't know about the recent seasons, but I know Dino Thunder, which I think by now is probably 5 or 10 years old.
Yeah,
he came back. He was like the kind of the professor. He like was teaching the Rangers, and then later he became the extra Ranger again. And this one, he was the Black Ranger. But then there's a dope ass scene, because I remember watching it with my little brother, and there's a dope ass scene where he is like in a coma, and he's like fighting for his life, and he has to fight his previous versions of himself. So he fights like the Red Zeo Ranger, which is him, and then he fights the White Ranger, and then he finally has to fight the Green Ranger, and he sees him, and he's like, you know, he says some fucking cocky Green Ranger shit, and he has to fight like all of his previous Rangers, and then he ends up becoming the Black Ranger. That shit's hype. That
does sound cool. Yeah, I haven't seen all 24, obviously. I don't think you have either, right?
Same. No way.
I fell off.
I've seen a bunch, though.
I have.
I've seen a bunch because of Jaden. So, like, obviously, I was super in the Power Rangers for a long time, but then you grow up, you get out of it.
Yeah.
And then, then sometimes I would see it on TV, and I'd be like, oh my God, like, this shit's so cheesy now.
Yeah.
And then when I ended up having, like really younger brothers, I ended up watching all of like a bunch of Power Rangers with them. So I ended up seeing a lot of seasons, and I ended up seeing a lot of seasons.
Yeah, a lot of them I didn't watch the more recent ones. I couldn't tell you anything about Dino Fury or Mystic and all that stuff, but I heard that some of them were actually good, and then obviously some of them were god awful.
Yeah. Some of them are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
One, I think you said RPM.
RPM is one of them, yeah.
That one is actually pretty fucking cool. Like, it obviously
What
has
is
some
RPM?
cheesy...
What is it based on?
I forget what the RPM stands for.
Yeah, I don't know what that stands for.
But if I remember, that's the one where it's like post-apocalyptic.
Okay.
I can't say that word. But post-apocalypse. And they like live in like a walled city, and like they can't really go outside the walls, and there's like a virus that like destroys people, and like these fucking robots kidnap people and like implant them with a virus.
Okay. It stands for Racing Performance Machines.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that means. But yeah, I definitely did not see this one.
But if that's the one the one I'm thinking of is the one that's post-apocalypse. That one's pretty cool. It still has like, once again, some cheesy line delivery and stuff.
Yeah, it's always going to be, because it's a kid's show. But we love that stuff as children. I love quoting the lines from the show. I also love doing the poses. And what kid didn't like karate? Like, when you think about it, Power Rangers is like a perfect show for children. As far as, I know that people complained about the violence and all of that stuff, and how, you know,
was all bullshit though, man. Like,
yeah, it's the same way people complain about Grand Theft Auto and then saying that that's the reason why we have school shooters. Like, those two things are not necessarily linked together. Like, I never played Grand Theft Auto 3 or San Andreas and been like, you know what I want to do? I want to go do this in real life. You know, maybe some human being out there has thought that, but I don't think most human beings could like conflated the two things, reality and the video game, and wanted to go out and mass murder people like they did in Grand Theft Auto. The same way I don't think that seeing Power Rangers necessarily made you want to go and start beating people's ass. But it did make me, I definitely did like to spar with my classmates who were into that type of thing. You know, on recess, when we go out.
You guys did it as friends and as fun. Like, you guys weren't beating really hurting each other.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get hurt, but it's just
kids. Exactly. Sometimes you get kicked in the chest and it's like, well, that fucking hurt. Don't do that again.
Yeah. But
I loved martial arts as a kid. I always wanted to do karate. I don't think I ever got to do karate, but I always wanted to. So Power Rangers was like the closest thing I ever had to karate, just watching them do that. Hoo-yah. And so, you know, they showed them in the dojos and stuff, training. Yeah,
I did taekwondo for like 2 years in high school.
I'm jealous. Oh, damn, in high school though.
Yeah. Because my dad, I don't remember specifically what he said, but my dad basically said like he doesn't really see a point in paying for those kind of classes when you're too young for them to really matter.
Yeah.
Like, if you do taekwondo when you're 6, like, you're not really learning it. You're just a 6-year-old. So
damn. You're not really learning it. You're a 6-year-old. Fuck 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Drag them.
It's true, man.
All right. So go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to go over some random facts. So
go ahead.
For people who don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually made a Power Rangers base theme, and it was called Super Quantums. And it came out, I want to say, like 2015-ish, 2016, 2015. But essentially it had a blue, a red, and a green ranger. They all did different things. Those cards are kind of broken. And recently, we played against one of our patrons, Quest, and he was using Super Quantum. He wanted to specifically play the February 2016 format, but not when you have full power Pepe Bosch, like right after it got hit, because like Super Quantum got their White Ranger. That card is crack, by the way. That card is insane. It's like tribute this card to excavate 3 Super Quantum monsters from your deck. One of them randomly gets special summoned, and the other 2 get sent to the graveyard. They all have graveyard effects, and they all have effects when they're special summoned. So they're kind of like regular current 2022 Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like, as we were playing the duel, and it's uploaded to our YouTube now, I noticed that these cards, you know, I'm sure that they don't hold up because the problem is they don't have an extra deck monster that's easy to summon with an Omni Negate effect that can, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's their problem. But the core engine of the deck, they could print an extra deck monster for Super Quantum that will make them current. Like, they could absolutely make that. It already has the bones. It has the skeleton of a really powerful deck because all of monsters are like, when this card is normal or special. They have a teleport target, which is huge because emergency teleport is at 3 again in current Yu-Gi-Oh! It just happened. And with
the Blue Ranger is a teleport target.
And he's the one that says he's Stratos. When he's normal or special, you search your deck for any Super Quant card. So I forgot how powerful Super Quantum can be. And obviously they have their Megazord, which we ended up facing off. If you guys haven't seen it on our YouTube, we faced off against them. We used the Mega Monarch deck, but their Megazord is pretty much unbeatable back then. Like it's very hard to get over it.
If you get that shit out, oh my god.
He's like unaffected by everything. Then he has a quick effect where he could put a monster back into, or not a monster, I think it's a face-up card or a card on the field back into the deck, which is insane. Like that doesn't trigger, usually that doesn't trigger shit. So if your monster's like, oh, if this card's moved from the field or if this card's into the graveyard or whatever, it won't, like, it doesn't trigger anything. It's insane. So that guy, when he comes out, he's 3,600, so he's bigger than pretty much everything. He's unaffected by literally everything, including Stormforth and all that shit. And so most decks just instantly lost when he came out. But yeah, Super Quants is a Power Rangers based Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and I think it's actually a cool deck. And I kind of want them. I don't know why, but after playing against Quest, I kind of want them to power creep it. I'm not gonna. I
would love if they did, man. Because Power Rangers are so cool, and those cards look cool. Their Zords look cool.
Their Zords look cool as shit. What was it called? Tiger, Phantom Liger, or something like that.
Red Liger, I think, or Blazing Liger.
Blazing Liger, yeah.
The Red Ranger one, and there's one for, because I think they have red, blue, and green, and then yeah, those were the only Zords I saw, and then they had a Megazord, and then I heard that they got some support later on that wasn't that good.
Yeah, Quest said it wasn't that great. But it would be cool because Power Rangers went through so many iterations, right? So, Mighty Morphin is to start. Yes, it wouldn't be crazy to think that there are new Rangers. Like they could make a Gold Ranger that would be absolutely broken. The White Ranger is broken already, but they can make a Green Ranger that is power crept and do something like that. Then they can make new Zords from. I mean, Power Rangers got new Zords all the time.
All the time. They could definitely do some cool ass shit with them.
And it might happen.
It might. I would really like that. I would get back into Yu-Gi-Oh, but I just would like looking at the cards or like owning them just to own them.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Super Quant deck, which I wasn't back in the day and when it came out, but now after playing against it and also just loving Power Rangers as much as I did as a kid, I realized like, wow, this actually is a really cool deck. I think I hated the Super Quant deck because of who played it. I'm not going to even bring his name up, but I think that's probably the reason why I did not like the deck is because the guy who played it was fucking obnoxious.
Yeah. Also, probably, as far as I know, it was never tier 0.
No.
And when you were playing competitively, like if it wasn't tier 0, it wasn't really worth looking at.
Yeah, that's how I always was. So yeah, that's definitely another factor. But they could 100% give it a Link Monster or Link Monsters. They could, one of the easy ways to power creep it is to do some Sky Striker shit to it. So if every single individual Ranger had a Link monster that just required that monster, so you go summon, effect, blue, search, whatever, right? Then you go link it away by it, like that by itself, it on the field, just link it away to a Link monster. That would be.
It would just be like, and it could just be their super version. Like it'll be that blue Ranger with like more armor on or some shit. That
would be a power creep right there. And that could just cause some problems. And I would love to see it. I would definitely love to see that.
That'd be fucking tight.
Another random fact about Power Rangers is that the actors from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were paid $600 a week. So the interesting thing is that all of them are very young in the show. They're not actually teenagers. They're playing high school kids, right? But they're not actually. Yeah. They're not actually high school age. They're like
still fairly young. They're like 20.
They're 20. So they're like college student age. They're playing high school students, which is not uncommon. And let me think about the show Euphoria right now, right? Like all of those actors are fucking grown, but they're all playing like college students or high school, whatever. Yeah, they're playing high school students actually. Yeah. So this is common in Hollywood, but they were paid $600 a week. And this is in the 90s, the early 90s at that. Like 1993 is when the show first started. So they're playing, these high school students, they're being paid $600 a week, which I think I'm just going to throw this random arbitrary number out there, but I would say that's probably about double, like by today's standards. So if you were to account for inflation over the course of the last 20 something years, I would probably say $600 a week translates to in the 90s, maybe like $1,200 or more, just because of how much inflation has happened over the course of 25 years or 20 something years. So they were getting paid, to be 20 years old and making $1,200 a week or $4,800 a month. It's pretty decent considering that the cost of living and the cost of everything was down significantly from where it is right now.
But on the flip side of that, even like if you look at the raw numbers, right, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But they didn't, if I remember correctly, they didn't receive like any benefits at all. Yep. And they worked super long hours, like way more than 40 hours a week. Yep. They got injured a lot and they didn't have, like, they didn't pay for their injuries. Like they didn't have
Yeah,
like
it was
any
bad.
injury insurance. They didn't have like any union or anything. So
Apparently, their conditions were really bad. It was so bad to the point where a lot of the Rangers demanded a pay increase because the show became an instant success. It became a huge hit in the 90s. It was one of the biggest shows on TV, especially for like child programming, that type of thing. So they said the show is doing well. A movie is coming, everything's coming out, like a movie and stuff like that. I know you guys are making a lot of money. Can you just pay us a little bit more? And they fired them.
yeah,
So the three
the
Rangers that
original
got fired. Yep.
Yeah, red, yellow, black.
Red, yellow, and black banded together and were like, hey, can we get a raise? And they literally fucking fired them, which is wild.
Yep.
And that's really fucked up because they did their own stunts. So all of the original Power Rangers from Mighty Morphin, they were all either martial artists or gymnasts in real life. So they didn't just pick like 5 random people and like, hey, we want you to star in the show. They picked people who actually knew martial arts or were gymnasts who could do like a lot of flips and tricks and things like that, which makes sense. But they basically weren't being compensated for their skills or their acting ability or for anything. They were just kind of like, here's a really small piece of the pie. I mean, like I said, the budget for the first movie was $15 million and they made like $66 million off of it. So the fact that these people were still being paid peanuts, it's like that was just, it's unfortunate to say, but that was kind of like the industry, right? In the 90s, you hear about people, same thing with the music industry. It's the same thing. You hear about people getting jerked really badly by the executives. They just take all the money and then you're left with like nothing.
Yeah, as much as I love the Power Rangers and I love a lot of the stuff they've done, just because like nostalgia, and I still find it cool. I don't care what anybody says. I still think the suits look cool as fuck.
I do. This wallpaper we have behind us, this looks high quality even right now. Like this looks good right now.
I love it. But a lot of the behind the scenes shit was dirty as hell. Like the way they treated Billy. I don't know his real name. I think it's David Yost.
It is David Yost. So he was the Blue Ranger and he was actually homosexual in real life. And the interesting thing about that is, this is the 90s, so just put this into context, but he was teased on set by writers, producers, directors, and fellow actors and actresses for being gay. Like literally, and this was okay back then. You couldn't really do anything about it. If you complained, they would just fire him. And he knew that was the thing because they had already fired 3 of his co-hosts or co-stars.
Yeah.
Like and all they said was, can we get a raise? God forbid you say, don't call me, I was going to say it, but don't call me the F word. Like, he said that he was called slurs, which you know what the slurs are. And it's really just fucked up the way times have changed. Like obviously now in today's age, you can't do any of that. One of the craziest things, it had a psychological effect on him. He underwent conversion therapy to try to become straight. And I don't know if, you know this or not. I'm sure 99.9% of people hopefully do, but that shit is not real. Like you cannot shock someone into being straight. You can't make them have sex with a woman to make them become straight. Like that's not how that works. That
you either are or you aren't.
You either are or you aren't. So like, so he underwent conversion therapy because he was teased so badly and he thought something was legitimately wrong with him. And it made him undergo the psychological, mental, just like, I don't know, onset of mental illness at that point. Because I feel like that's what that eventually does to you, is makes you think that something is wrong with you.
I mean, back then there isn't really, it's not like there's anybody to talk to because mental health, like it's funny how many different puzzle pieces have gotten better to make all of those things less a problem. Like for example, in general, people are more accepting of different lifestyles, right? But additionally to that, people are more accepting to like mental health issues, right? So like back then, all like that and multiple other things, all not really being accepted or talked about. It all just fucking stacks on top of you, and you're like, oh well.
Yeah, and from the original cast, the Blue Ranger is actually the longest standing one. Like everyone else at some point left, and he was the longest running Power Ranger. So
yeah, he was on for a long time. He was in a bunch of seasons. Like he stopped being a ranger, I think, but he was still in a bunch of seasons afterwards as like a mechanic and shit.
He was the longest. It actually says when I look at the like fun facts about the show that he is the longest standing Power Ranger, like the longest standing person, because he's from Mighty Morphin, like the very first season. He's in the first episode of the show, right? And then he's in like some of the most recent shit, I guess. But yeah, and then like you said, Tommy, Jason, David Frank, who my one friend Garen, who also supports us on Patreon, he fucking hates Jason David Frank, and I need to know why, because
hater.
it is insane. Like when I tell you that he hates him, I think that he's blocked from all of Jason David Frank's fan pages on Facebook because he's joined the groups
my God.
He's joined the groups and trolled the communities, attacked him verbally and all types of shit, said I'll run your fade if I see you in person. I don't know what their beef is, but there's a beef between Garen and Jason David Frank. So it's interesting, Garen, he's also military trained. I know Jason David Frank does martial arts, so if they ever had to meet each other in real life, they might actually square up.
Throw hands.
They might throw real hands.
I don't know your friend Garen. At least I don't think I do.
No, you don't know Garen. Garen's cool as shit though.
But I know there are people. Not saying this is his opinion, but there are people out there that don't like him, or just because like he is the most popular one. He's the one that shows up. Like they bring him back a lot, and he gets a lot of. It's like in wrestling. For anybody that knows anything about wrestling, WWF, WWE. There's people that like hate certain wrestlers like The Rock because The Rock will go away, do 7 movies, and then he'll come back and get main event at like WrestleMania. And people are like, that's not fair. The Rock's not even here anymore. He's just like The Rock, so he gets like star power. And it's like, well, I mean, he's the fucking Rock.
Yeah, he's literally the biggest thing in all of, honestly, in all of acting. I think right now The Rock is the biggest thing in the world. Like I think he's the biggest actor in the entire world. And I think he's the highest paid actor. He's probably like the number 1 celebrity in the world. Is like him or Cristiano Ronaldo. One of those 2 people are the biggest celebrity in the entire world. Like literally The Rock and I think the soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo or whatever his name is. They have the biggest Instagram accounts. I remember that was a thing for a while. But yeah, I'm not surprised that people hate on what's the biggest, but I think Garen's hatred for Jason is deep rooted in something else, and maybe one day we could have him on to tell his story, or maybe
I would love to hear it.
Or maybe he'll just, because Garen actually comments on all of our YouTube videos, like pretty much every single one of them. So maybe he'll let us know the exact reason or reasons why he despises that man. Because when I tell you that shit runs deep, every couple months, Garen just starts to OD on Jason David Frank, and he tags the fan page and shit from a different account.
That's so funny.
He's like,
I know
in
real life. Jason David Frank and I think his name's like St. John Alexander is the Red Ranger.
Okay.
So the Red Ranger, the original Red Ranger's name was Jason, and Tommy, the Green Ranger's real name is Jason.
Yeah.
So anyway, but in real life, those actors, the Red and Green Ranger, for a long time had beef and they didn't get along. I don't know if they settled it or not.
Teenage angst.
But I remember they had beef for a really long time and they didn't get along.
Yeah. Eventually, so after the Red Ranger and the Yellow and the Black Ranger demand for a pay increase and they get fired, the Red Ranger goes on to live in his car for a while. Just to put in perspective how fucked up and cutthroat Hollywood was. Like you could...
Yeah, they didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, like this kid, because he basically was a kid. Like he's like young 20s, like 20, 21, maybe 22, something like that. But he's very young. And he's just living in his car after being on this really big TV show. Then they bring in a guy, the new Red Ranger, I think his name was Rocky.
Yep.
Yeah, they brought in
Rocky,
Aisha,
Rocky, Adam, and Tanya. Aisha was one of them. Yeah, Aisha was the first one. Also, fun fact: Adam, the second Black Ranger, is the voice actor for Ichigo and a million other anime characters in English. Yeah. Johnny Young Bosch is the actor's name.
Okay, that name is 100% familiar as hell.
Yeah, that's the actor for Adam, the second Black Ranger.
Yeah.
He's the voice actor for Ichigo, and I know he's also a voice actor for a bunch of dubbed anime. Yeah,
that's interesting. I definitely heard that name before. He's probably overused because we always complain about how one of the problems I have with dubbed anime is just that they overuse the voice actors.
He's one of the most overused, yo. He is. If you look at his credits, he is in everything. So I'm happy that he has a great career in voice acting, right? Like I'm happy because a lot of the Rangers after they were done the show just kind of fizzle out. And so that's good that he found a niche where he can get paid and have a successful career. But it is a little absurd that they reuse the same people over and over and over again. So as much as I'm happy for him, I'm also kind of like, please give some other voice actors an opportunity. Yeah.
Did you know that the original Yellow Ranger, at least in the Japanese scenes, is actually a boy? Guy? Yeah.
Yep. If you notice in the original suits, the Pink Ranger has a skirt. Her suit has a skirt and the Yellow Ranger doesn't. So yeah, I did know in the Japanese one, the original Yellow Ranger was a boy.
Yeah, you can see that he's a boy too because they're wearing spandex. So if you go to the really early episodes of the Power Rangers and you just look at the Yellow Ranger, it's either he's happy to see someone, or it's just a guy. Like it's blatantly a guy. You can tell because of the
I did know that. Also, speaking of having a crush on Kimberly, I did have a crush on Trini as well. I just, I don't know.
All the girls were really cute from the original
all the girls
Power
were
Rangers.
fucking cute. They didn't hire when Aisha came in. Aisha was fucking cute. Like they didn't hire an ugly fucking Power Ranger. Like that.
That's actually true. Because when I was young, I thought all of the Power Rangers looked good except I didn't really care. It's weird. This is funny. I didn't really care for the Blue Ranger. I thought everyone else was kind of hot though. I thought Jason, Zack, like literally everyone, Kimberly, Aisha, Trini, like I thought all of them were really good looking, except I didn't really care for how the Blue Ranger looked because he just looked like some nerdy guy that would like maybe become a school shooter at some point.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But like, I pretty much thought that they definitely did make sure they looked good because even the seasons after that, I feel like they looked good too.
They always look good, man. Yeah. They always look good. I remember watching one of the seasons with my brother and the Pink and Yellow Ranger in that season. I was like, oh my God. Like I was just like
they were thick.
Holy shit. Like they had them in some skirts and some shorts, and I was like, do they know the dads are watching? Because like
they were thick.
They must know the dads are watching because these two bitches right now, like, they are out of control.
So the Power Rangers theme song.
On that note, one of the Yellow Rangers, I want to say maybe Lost Galaxy, actually went on to do porn.
I'm not surprised about that because there's been 24 different sequels.
Yeah,
at least one of them has had to do porn by now. Yeah, that sounds about right. Not surprised in the slightest. What was I gonna say? So the Power Rangers theme song, "Go Go Power Rangers," da-na-na, that whole thing, that was a top 10 song in the UK. When it was actually airing. So that's how popular and how big Power Rangers was at one point, that it was a top 10 song in the UK, which is a pretty impressive feat considering that it's a theme song for a show. And the person who actually wrote the song or like performed the song also did I believe the music for He-Man and like a couple other famous shows that have like really catchy theme songs. So when you think about the 90s, I think we brought this up a while ago, or maybe this was in the Toys episode too, but I just remember a lot of the little jingles from the 90s, right? Like there's so many things from the 90s and commercials that kind of, they stuck with me today because of how catchy they are. And Go-Go Power Rangers is definitely one of them. Then I even think like Ricola and like random shit like that. Like I just randomly know Nationwide is on your side and like all that bullshit.
Somebody made a lot of money doing that.
Yeah, those jingles are catchy, and that was the whole point.
This wasn't in any of our episodes. This is when we were playing, doing the duel with Quest. But I, for whatever reason, kept doing the flush.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, that theme song actually became a top 10 hit in some countries, and I think I also brought up the fact that Power Rangers, it got banned because of violence in certain countries as well. Another weird thing, and I don't really know how to feel about this, but I don't know if I said this already. The word morphing and the actual title, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they kind of like thought that it was too close to the word morphine, like the drug morphine, the very powerful drug morphine that people usually are on when they're dying. They thought it was too close, so the original name was going to be Dino Rangers instead of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but thank God that didn't happen because Mighty Morphin Power Rangers sounds way better.
I think, I could be wrong, but I think in some countries they did go through with changing.
Yeah, I think in some countries they literally had to make it not say the. And the weird thing was, it was Asian countries who felt this way, and that's where those opioids came from, though.
Yeah.
So like some of the countries where that came from, that like they were the ones actually.
Like, nah, bruh.
Yeah, like don't make the block hot for us, basically. Power Rangers got banned. I believe, is it New Zealand or Australia? One of those. I always forget, but one of them it got banned in, and then that's where they were filming it at the same time. So that's interesting, right? Like it's banned in this country. Yeah, I think it's New Zealand, but it was banned. Let's say it's New Zealand. It was banned. One of
the seasons, blatantly all the actors are like Australian. I don't remember which season it is.
I think I know what you're talking about too. I feel like I saw that. And you remember in Power Rangers Turbo, they had a little kid, but when he would transform, he would become an adult.
Yo, yeah, you know why, right? I'm sure you know why now.
Yeah, I get it now. Because, but wait, what is the actual reason? Because I just assume like one is the Japanese show that was dubbed over, right?
Yeah, so basically it's just in the Japanese version, the Blue Ranger's an adult. It's not a fucking child.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason in the English version they got a kid. I don't know why they got a
Probably
kid.
because they didn't have to pay him anything.
So then when he would turn into the Blue Ranger, they would have to make him turn into an adult because the fucking actor that was the Blue Ranger in the Japanese version was an adult. Like, it wasn't a kid.
Yeah, like literally he would stretch. His body would stretch
Yeah.
out every time he transformed. And I always thought that was so weird and kind of
It was like some Dragon Ball GT shit.
It
Like
was.
when Goku goes Super Saiyan 4, like, I'm an adult now.
Yeah, it definitely was that. I never understood it when I was a kid, but I just kind of accepted it. And Turbo wasn't that good anyway, so it was like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do remember seeing the Turbo movie, and and even in the show, when he would transform, he would just become grown. And I was like, I don't know what is going on with this, but how come I don't become grown when I put on the costume?
Shit was such a fucking rant. That kid was corny.
Yes, very corny. So sadly, the original Yellow Ranger from Mighty Morphin, Trini, she actually died in a car accident around 9/11, like in 2001. It was right either before 9/11 or after 9/11, but she
It was right before.
Yeah, she died in a car accident, which really sucks. And yeah, that's just one of those other facts about it. I don't think many of the other actors have passed away or anything because it didn't show up in any list when I looked around. But she is one of the Rangers that's no longer with us.
One of the Pink Rangers had leukemia, but she overcame it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, one of the Pink Rangers had leukemia. She actually, they killed her off in the show, like not in a rude way. Like she had like a valiant death in the show.
Yeah.
Because she had to leave the show to go do treatment for leukemia. And then she ended up overcoming it. So, yeah.
That's pretty good. And then what was one of the other things? So Zordon, the actor who plays Zordon, he shot for one day for the entire series. So every time you see Zordon on screen in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, it's actually just the same thing being used over and over. But then he came in periodically to do voiceovers. Because he, of course, says other things. But they didn't actually have him do the whole, he's like that ghostly thing in the tube.
Yeah. They just like flicker his face around.
Yep. And his mouth, a lot of times, isn't even moving.
Dude, you know what they need to do? I don't know if they ever done it, but they got to give me a flashback season because Zordon is apparently broken. I need like a flashback season because, as I understand it, like Zordon's the OG that was fighting Rita and stuff.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
You know what I mean? Like I need like an OG Zordon fucking shit up.
They could do that at any point
too. A man in a tube.
Yeah,
they really can. Let me get some Zordon Zordon flexing on fools in real life.
Yeah, I need that. I would like the Zordon
something
backstory.
else? This is super random, but something that, and maybe this is bias, but I do feel like in Mighty Morphin had some of the best villain designs and like how creepy they were. Like, I remember like Rita and like her, like when you would go to Rita's castle, it had this really creepy vibe. And then Lord Zed is just nasty.
He looks cool as hell to me though.
He's cool as
with the big ass Z, and he had the staff with the Z on it, and he was
his head just all flesh with the metal
and his brain was exposed. Yeah.
Whereas like some of the later villains, they still look like they look crazy, and some of them even look nasty, but they don't feel as creepy or as imposing.
Yeah, you know what it is? The later villains started to get a little too costumey. And
yeah.
There was something a little too humanoid about the original villains.
Yeah.
Like they were very humanoid looking, whereas the later ones were like a giant insect. Like, okay, I get it. Like it's a giant insect, but seeing, like you said, someone who's been skinned, it looks like, and his brain is exposed and he's evil as shit. I mean, if I had to think about what the devil looked like as a kid, I would say that
Zed's up there.
Zed looks like the devil. Like if you thought about the devil, he kind of looks like a devil. And then Goldar, he was like he actually looked cool to me. He was like actually gold. He had the long black hair in the back, and he was like some kind of monster looking thing. Mm-hmm. I love the way he talked. Whoever did the voice actor for him, you did a phenomenal job. The voice of Goldar, Rangers, like he'd always come out and be fucking trolling the shit out of him. Yeah, he was a shit talker. Rita was really cool. Yeah, I like the villains a lot. I like Ivan News. I thought that he was amazing. I like
Scorpina.
Who?
Scorpina was also hot. Scorpina was she was one of Rita's henchmen.
Okay.
And,
I assume that she was part Scorpion or something.
Yeah, she was like a Scorpion girl. Also, I'm pretty sure all of her scenes, like they just used the original Japanese footage. Like I think her voice is just dubbed over. And they didn't get a new actor. Like that's just like the Japanese.
That's literally the person. Yeah, like Rita.
Yeah.
I can't believe I never noticed as a kid that Rita's mouth was not moving to what she was saying. I cannot believe I never noticed that.
Yeah, eventually, in later seasons, they got like a different actor.
Yeah.
Because, like when they did the Power Rangers Turbo movie, for example, Rita's in that, but you know, none of those scenes are Japanese scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just never noticed it, and that's just crazy to me. But I do want to watch the original movie again just to see it. I don't know if I saw the movie that came out most recently, like in 2017 or whatever it was.
I want to see it. I didn't honestly like. I don't. Maybe after watching it, I'll change my mind. But when it first came out, I didn't really like the way the suits looked, and it felt there's something I don't know. It just didn't click with me.
Yeah.
I should try to watch it, but
Maybe
everything
we
I
could do
saw
a
about
bad
it
movie
just like,
night.
didn't click.
You know,
I'm down.
we like to do our bad movie
We could do
night.
like a little review for it too on the podcast. Like I'm down.
Yeah, just a little something, nothing crazy. But yeah, Power Rangers was the shit growing up. And it honestly, it was one of the things that makes my imagination. We talk about this often, but you know, kids now, you know, this is very boomer of us, but like kids now, they just kind of have iPads and they go on like YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And that's like their thing. They make TikToks or they just play Roblox all day. And when we had like Power Rangers, we had Dragon Ball Z and all these other things. And I just feel like our imaginations were cultivated by things like Power Rangers and stuff. Like you see so much shit. Because wasn't a part of Power Rangers, Rita would randomly put a spell on random objects and turn them into a villain?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
there was a part like there's an episode where there's an iguana in their class, like the class pet is an iguana, and they do Rita or Zed does a spell on the iguana, and the iguana ends up becoming the monster they have to fight.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool. Like inanimate objects sometimes would become the villain. One time it was a purse, and it was like this pink purse thing, and I swear to God, in this episode, they got destroyed because the purse could reflect everything. So every time they would like shoot a laser beam at it, it would just fire back at them. And you would just see them all get shot out of the Zords and stuff, and they would get fucked up real bad. I forgot how they ended up beating it, but the purse like went ham randomly. And I didn't expect that because I just assumed like, oh, you know, they get to a point they're fighting and they go back and forth. And then at the end, they always do the thing where they like power up their sword, do the little slow swing thing, and then they would slash at the screen, and then the monster would just die in the background. They make the little pose, the iconic Power Rangers pose. One of the things that we also didn't talk about yet is so they had the base villains in the original season, the putties. They would come on, making that fucking dumbass noise.
The fucking putties.
I remember one of my friends in school when a teacher would call on him to like answer a question, knowing that he wasn't paying attention, he just make the fucking noise. He got kicked out of class.
Man, I remember they like, you know, they looked whatever the fuck they looked like, and then there was like upgraded putties where they got like a fucking emblem on their chest.
Yes. So I remember you had to hit them in their emblem that's how you beat them.
Yeah.
You have to like. So I think because the Power Rangers, now that I know that they had to do their own like martial arts and their own stunts and everything like that, for the most part, like sometimes they had stunt doubles, but for the most part, that was actually them, the actors, performing all their own martial arts and stuff. They would have to like kick them in the chest to hit the emblem and like punch them in certain places or elbow their chest. And you have to be accurate to do that because it was like a little circle. So you have to be accurate to do it. They did it all the time. But yeah, I imagine it took a lot. And they said they got injured on set a lot. And
oh, for sure. There was did you ever see any of the crossovers? There's a couple crossovers that are crazy. Like there's a Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles crossover.
Yep. Power Ranger crossovers are fire. Even the ones that are inter-universe, like, you know, a Power Rangers with another Power Ranger season.
Yeah, dude, they are. At this point, like I wasn't watching Power Rangers at all, right? I was an adult.
Yeah.
But then I got wind that like a special episode was coming on called Forever Red. And it was every single Red Ranger from every season that was going to show up in one episode. And I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
And so I watched it. And so like Tommy was the one that got everybody together. And he was like in his red Zeo outfit. And there's all these Red Rangers. And then there's a moment where like Jason still isn't there. And like somebody mentions like there's still one missing. And they're like, oh, he's probably not coming.
The OG.
And then Jason comes up and he's like, you know, you can't do this without the original Red Ranger.
That's right.
And oh my God, I fucking lost it.
Yeah, no,
like,
that shit's fire.
There's also a part where like, it's like the newest Red Ranger and Jason are like fighting somebody. And he's like, leave it to me, rookie. And he like moves him aside. And, like, dog, I lost my shit.
Power Rangers definitely had a lot of shit talking. Like it definitely had a lot of shit talking. That was part of it. But yeah, there were other crossovers. There was one where they would just literally have like Rangers in space and like Power Rangers Zeo or something, and they would all just literally be fighting together. And those were epic as hell too, because you get the Gold Ranger and stuff, and there'll be like him next to all the Black Rangers, even though he technically wasn't a Black Ranger, but he has the same costume kinda. Like you said, all the Red Rangers would be together. But yeah, there would be seasons where they would just have. I think there was one where they literally had like 3 or 4 different groups of Rangers on screen.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just literally 3 or 4 different groups of them, and those are really
hype.
epic. Yeah,
that shit is so hype.
Most of that stuff did happen when me and you were older.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff happened later. And then it was just kind of, I would catch the rerun on YouTube or whatever. Yeah. I would go and check it out. Like Forever Red, I remember going to check that out and just, I was way too old to be getting hype, I guess, but I was hype. I don't care. I still get hype.
I was about to say, I love that stuff.
When he said you can't do this without the original Red Ranger, I was like, oh my, I was so hype. Like, I felt like I just watched, I don't fucking know, man. It was the best. It was the best.
Yeah, no, that shit's awesome. All right, well, before we transition to our next phase of this podcast, so that's the Power Ranger segment, I want to go over some listener letters, and I also want to give a shout out to our patrons over at Patreon. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast where we talked about Power Rangers, if this is something that you're interested in, let us know how you felt about it, because this was actually demanded by one of our patrons. So he's in the main character tier, and in that tier he has the ability of Dark Bribe. Dark Bribe allows him to request that one of our topics be whatever he wants, as long as it's, within reason, like something nerdy. Don't ask us to talk about like the Biden administration or some shit like that. Joe Byron. Like, as long as it's within reason, something relatively nerdy, we'll talk about it. So right after we played him for our Patreon exclusive duel thing, he said, how about you guys do an episode on Power Rangers? And it made sense because he had just played Super Quantum. So anyway, over on our Patreon at IMNerd Podcast, we have Connie, Austin, Leon, Quest, Garen, Xavier, Hylian, TCG Automotive, Silver Chronic, Tyree Tinsley, Dimitri Barnes, Alexander Brissett, Vinny Casello, Dominic Roberts, Game Freak Yoshi, Alex Flamer, Michael, Gabe Barini, Andre Reynolds, CJ, WK Dal1, Saul at Dabber's Gaming Cafe, Dan Varable, and Dennis Milburn. Thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast. We really appreciate it. As I always say, it goes a really long way. And if you guys are interested in our Patreon, just check that out. We also have our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. The videos come out. Well, we're going to start uploading clips, but we don't actually put the videos on YouTube, like the full video versions of the podcast. Those are Patreon exclusive for now, but we will start uploading clips of those, like little 10-minute clips or whatever at some point.
Yeah.
What else was there? Okay, so I wanted to go over listener letters. So you can write in if you want to kind of have us read out a question or just a response to one of the episodes. You can write into the IMNerd Podcast at gmail.com and we will read it aloud on the show. Again, that's IMNerd Podcast at gmail.com and we will read your letter out on the show. So this one, I think it's the most recent. It comes from Austin, who is a patron, I believe. And it says, and this one is on Alistair and the whole duel that happened, so the remote duel YCS that took place very recently. And we had a whole segment where we talked about like cheating has to be intentional, and a Joe Dietrich episode of the podcast. I hope I'm saying his name right, but Joe came on. He's the most recent YCS champion, and he had a little thing where in top 4, him and his opponent didn't notice an illegal play, and they both actually ended up doing illegal plays in those 3 games. So like, it wasn't just one-sided, but the whole thing was, people trying to say, oh,
accidental illegal plays.
Yeah. Like, they're not intentional at all. And that's the whole point. To be a cheater, it has to be intentional. So Austin writes in, he says, I definitely agree it should have been an accepted game state because future card knowledge is way more advantageous than a misplay that usually goes through anyways. Definitely not cheating, since the Amaraj Shaman is just muscle memory. And usually in that kind of pressure, it's habits that typically come out more. So like, that makes sense, right? He's saying, when you're under pressure, your body's just kind of doing what it normally does as opposed to trying to think about the situation. Because, Chalice made his Alistair go up by 400 attack, which made it where he no longer was eligible to go into Almirage. But they're not thinking about that part because the real reason why I got Chalice was to negate the effect.
Yep.
Austin goes on to say, also, that's why I play Smash better when I can turn off my brain, so to speak. And I do agree with that. When it comes to fighting games, so Kenny's cousin, Nicholas Tango, he's like one of the top Melee players in the world. I think at his peak, he was ranked like 32nd in the world or something like that in Melee. And this is kind of recent too. So like in the last 5 or so years, which is insane. He plays card games now because we're quarantined and he can barely play like tournaments and stuff like that for Smash. So he plays more card games now. He plays like Hearthstone, he plays Yu-Gi-Oh, old formats, and he plays DC deck building. And I am basically his coach, his like mentor in all card games. And one of the things I noticed is that sometimes he plays a little too fast. And I realized, it took me a while to realize this too, like months. but I realized that he plays off of instinct. Like he kind of just does things off of instinct as opposed to slowing down and thinking about it. Because in a Smash world, that's how you play the game. Like you play, it's a fast, like especially Melee. It's a fast paced game, so you're kind of always, you have to be quick. You don't have time to really like think about, oh, I want to do this or how to execute this. Your fingers are just doing it. Like you kind of know, you make reads in a moment, and these reads are happening so fucking fast.
Yeah, you make in-depth in fighting games. You make a pretty in-depth read but you never think about it. You never say he's going to do this in your brain. You just do it, and like your brain thought of it before you thought of it. If that makes any sense, like, it just kind of happens. Like you would be playing, and then all of a sudden, like I've done this, where like I'll just randomly just charge a F smash behind me, and then because I read that they're going to roll behind me, and then they roll, and then you F smash them.
Yep, I love, and when you see that shit play out on screen, it looks amazing.
Yeah, but that wasn't planned 5 minutes ago. No, it just like happened.
Exactly, and some of it comes with conditioning, right? So in that sense, it is planned in that way, but not literally a slow thinking. Like in card games, you literally sit there and you think.
Yeah,
and that's not how fighting games work. So it is. I do agree with the whole in Yu-Gi-Oh. When you're under a lot of pressure, you just start doing things that you are used to doing in your playtesting. So that makes sense. Okay, we have another listener letter from Vincent. This one is from a while ago. It's from around when we did our Dale Bolito episode. So he says, from the moment Fraser mentioned the next guest was going to be amazing and is the household name of household names, I just knew it had to be Dale Bolito, especially considering all the greats that had already been on so far. Having him on made me wonder, what about the other greats from around that time? Dale is Canadian, but what about transcontinental pros from overseas as guests? I know you had a connection with Simon He at one point. I'm sure many other former players from this time period around the early 2010 era would be interested in knowing if there's a possibility of bringing on European greats such as Michel Gruner, Claudio Kirkmere. I'm sure it'd be a great conversation hearing about their stories and what the EU scene was like back in the day. And yeah, that's actually a good point. I don't know many of the European players, if I'm being honest, because I've only gone to Europe for Yu-Gi-Oh! Once. I went to Barcelona YCS in 2012. And so I've only gone to Europe for Yu-Gi-Oh! One time. I don't know many of the players, but it would be nice to have them on. Maybe I can get the ball rolling or something like that, because I would love to interview someone who plays. They've had different formats than us, because when we would get TCG exclusive cards or like cards that came in our magazines, the Shonen Jump magazines, they wouldn't get them. For example, Elemental Hero Prisma, when we had our Glabbies format, they just didn't get the magazine with Prisma in it. So they didn't have Prisma. So Glabbies were not as good in Europe as they were in the United States.
I'd say we can do some stuff, but I could also say if anybody listening happens to know any of those European players, if you want to show them the podcast and let them know about it.
Yeah, we're looking for a European guest.
That's the thing. We don't know, or not even just European, and anybody from any country, as long as they speak English.
I was about to say, yeah.
That's the only language I speak. But yeah, anybody from any country, if they want to be on the pod, show them the podcast, let them know. I'd happily have them on. And that goes for even outside of Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering players.
Yeah, we're actually interested in talking to people.
Fighting games,
this isn't even a Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast necessarily. Like, I know we do a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, but as you also know, like this episode was on Power Rangers, and we jump around a lot. We do anime, we do video games, we do all types of stuff. But if you know any popular figureheads in any community that is nerd related, if you haven't into them, we would love to have them on the podcast to just talk and nerd the fuck out about anything. Like, we love Naruto. One day I want to have some of the big Naruto YouTube channels. The Bleach, when Bleach comes back, there's some really big YouTube channels that do Bleach content. I would like to have them on the podcast one day. So these are some of our ambitions with some of the things we want to do down the line. But yeah. All right. Another listener letter I want to get to, and this one is from around our Odd Taxi episode, and this is from Austin on Gotcha Games. He says, now, I have no issue spending money on a free game if I really enjoy it to show support. However, I think if I didn't play Yu-Gi-Oh! In real life so much, I would spend too much on the phone game. I think the only reason that keeps me from spending so much is because the only way to get the cards is random to an extent. In real life, I can just buy singles and get whatever I want. I've definitely done that in detriment at the time, but now it has worked out in my favor with the market prices. So yeah, inflation made it where all of the money that you spent back in the day that probably wasn't a good idea at the time, if you held on to those cards, you just profited real nice.
Yeah, I get what he's saying in terms of spending money on the phone game. So I've done that. So I have I've played a bunch of different phone games just to like play them, try them if they're
Yeah.
interesting. But there's two out of all of them. There's two that I played by far the most. And the first one was called One Piece Treasure Cruise. There's a One Piece gacha game, and I still think that game is so fucking fun. Like, it's actually just a really, really fun game. One Piece Treasure Cruise, and the other one was Fire Emblem Heroes. I played both of those games a bunch, and when I was playing them a lot, I was like a year into playing them, and I'd played them for free for a year, and I was, you know what, fuck it, I'll spend $60. Like, I remember on Treasure Cruise, I was like, a full game is $60, like a retail game, $60. I've been playing this game for a year for free. I'll spend $60 on it just because like I play this more than a bunch of other games anyway.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like a one-time thing. It was like, I'll pay $60 to like support the game, and this is like what I value a video game at. So like I did that for One Piece, and I did it again when I played Fire Emblem, where I spent $60 on it because I was playing the game so much anyway. But I'm very like hard line where it's like I'm doing this once to like represent buying the game, and I'm not doing it again.
Yeah,
whereas some people get into, oh, I mean, I can just get, I really, it's just $15. I gotta get a couple gems.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. I think I told my Pokemon Go story on here, but back when that shit was popular, 2016, I got involved in Pokemon Go, and I have a very addictive personality. I'm very open about this, which is why I try to avoid doing certain things because I tend to go hard. So one of the things I'm clearly addicted to is clothes, and I was addicted to video games for a while. I'm very addicted to the Monster Hunter franchise. I was addicted to Yu-Gi-Oh! And when I'm addicted to something, I spend money on it. So when I became addicted to Pokemon Go, I started dropping a bag on that game. And I would be buying incubators, right? That was one of the things you had to buy to hatch my eggs. And I started buying, I think at one point, because Pokeballs were not hard to get, but like maybe potions and stuff to heal your Pokemon you had to buy. So I would start buying those. And it was a slippery slope. I started putting hundreds of dollars into the game, and the game wasn't really good, especially back then. It had a lot of errors. The radar didn't work, so you'd see a Pokemon show up as a shadow or whatever on the radar, but then, you couldn't tell which direction to walk in. It was a mess. And the company had made like $25 billion in less than a year. And I remember the CEO or whatever of the company went on stage at some con, and they started asking him questions about it. And he was visibly, to me, he looked like he was intoxicated, like he had a couple drinks. He just didn't look like a professional, and it really bothered me that I felt like, okay, this game has been wildly successful. You're probably a millionaire several times over now, and it just seemed like they didn't care anymore. And that's when I decided, like, okay, I've been pouring money into this. I've poured more money into this game in Pokemon Go than I have any other video game. Because like Kenny said, normally when you buy a game, like you pay $60, whatever it is, that's it. Like you bought the game outside of any DLC. Like that's it.
But even in the DLC is usually it's like, okay, $15. I got the season and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, now there's shit like Fortnite where they're basically phone games where you can just spend money every day on them. But
yeah, there was no end.
Go ahead.
There was no end to the Pokemon Go thing, and I would just be dumping money in it. But I really started to feel like the company just wasn't very supportive or very interested in fixing some of the complaints the community had because of how much money they had made. That's how I felt anyway. So I decided to get out of it, and I went on Reddit and I found a thread that told me how to get all my money back. And then I complained on the Apple Store, and they literally they refunded me every single cent that I spent on Pokemon Go. And when I logged into my file, all of the things that I bought were still there, which I guess that makes sense. Like there's no way for them to like, I guess, get rid of it unless they deactivate your account too, which they don't. So I ended up keeping everything. But I also, to not fully like scumbag the company, I guess, I just never played Pokemon Go again. Like I don't play Pokemon Go now. I didn't play it after that day. Like once I got all my money back, I completely detached because I was so fucking addicted to it. It felt like a gacha game. We're hatching the eggs because that became the thing. Like after you got to the max level, right? Whatever the max level was back then. Once you reached the max level, all there really was to do was just like keep catching Pokemon, try to get the best IVs on your Pokemon. So there were like websites that would tell you the IVs of your Pokemon and that whole type of thing. But for the most part, hatching eggs was a way to get like the best Pokemon and the best IVs and all this other stuff. So in that sense, because they knew that that's how you spent money, that became the whole game, was spending money on incubators. And I don't know. Yeah. I got out of that.
Yeah, that shit's rough. We did talk about it. Pokemon Go is a game that I want to love, but I gave that shit no time. I tried to download it once. I tried playing it. The shit was buggy and glitchy and didn't work, and I was like, I'm out. I didn't like the package they were giving me.
Yeah. Did you have you played the new Pokemon game? Speaking of Pokemon, the Arceus thing?
Yo,
Or
oh my
Arceus?
god, we should probably do an episode on it. I'm not even kidding, because I have a lot I want to talk about with that. But yeah, I have played Legends of Arceus. I don't remember if I said it on episode or not, but it was bought for me for my birthday,
Oh, nice.
and yeah, and big shout outs to that. And I've been playing it, and there is a lot good with it. I have a lot to say. It's on one end one of the best Pokemon games that has been made in the last 15 years.
Wow.
It's one of the best Pokemon games. But on the other end, there's still some really frustrating flaws that it has, that it's like, this shouldn't be a problem. Like, these were problems that have long since been fixed in any other game, any other genre, even within, like, I understand that Game Freak isn't technically Nintendo, they're just like under the Nintendo umbrella.
Right.
But I just feel like, being associated with Nintendo, there's certain quality control things that you should have down, and this game doesn't have them. But once again, the game's really fucking fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and there's a lot of praise I can say for it. But I also have a lot of critiques and complaints, but those critiques and complaints don't come from a place of hate. They come from a place of like
I want this to be better.
I want this to be better, and it could be better. I'm already liking it so much, but there's these pain points that could just
they're obvious,
blatantly improved.
Yeah,
and they're so obvious, and they're pain points that have been fixed in the last 2 decades of gaming. Like,
okay,
they don't need to.
Yeah, we could talk about that. So our next episode, I think this is episode 49, right? So
yeah, I believe so.
So our next episode is going to be our 50th, and we're going to do like a little 50th special type of thing. And I think Kenny and I talked about this, but for our 50th episode, we're going to be doing like, just talk about 25. Like, I'll do 25 of my favorite nerd things, and then Kenny will also do 25, and we'll just kind of discuss them. It won't be, because that could take, for us, that could take
it's
forever.
Going to be in depth, like talking about 50 things, and it's not possible. But
right.
We're just going to like mention throughout the video. 50 different things will get mentioned.
Yes,
and we'll probably talk in depth about some of them.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just going to kind of have fun with it.
Yeah, and that's coming on the next episode. But yeah, so I'll let you play more of Pokemon Arceus or Arceus, however you say it, and then we can do an episode on that, or just like kind of like a review. Maybe not a full episode on it, but just like a like that'll be a segment on an episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been playing, so like, because I don't know if for anybody that does or doesn't know, I've been away from home. I'm going to be away from home for like, I've already been away for almost a week now. I'm going to be gone for like basically another week, I think. So I've been away from home, but what I've been doing, like, in the time when I have free, like, because I got my Switch with me, so whenever I have a chance, I've been playing Legends of Arceus. I say Arceus. I think technically it is pronounced Arceus, but I've always said Arceus. But I've been playing Legends of Arceus, and I've been playing Monster Hunter GU, Generations Ultimate, on the Switch. Just because I've been in a Monster Hunter mood, and
I cannot wait for that game to come out.
I'm waiting for Sunbreak so hard, and GU was on sale for like $16 or $17, and so I was like, fuck it, I'll pick it up. And so I've been playing that, and I've been playing Legends of Arceus. Something that's interesting is that it has like some interesting similarities to Monster Hunter.
I actually heard it compare. I think you mentioned that it was compared to Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm actually interested in how. So when you talk about it on the podcast, we can go over that, because it's funny, I haven't actually seen any gameplay out of it, outside of somebody approaching a Snorlax and getting bodied. Like, I think Snorlax just straight up hyper beamed a fucking Squirtle or something on, like, and I was like, that's just excessive.
Yeah, smoked.
Yeah. All right. Well, this wraps up this episode of the IMNerd podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was requested by one of our patrons over at Patreon. So if you're interested in us talking about something that you want to hear about, like us doing a full episode essentially on that topic, you can subscribe to our Patreon. IMNerd podcast. If you search it on there, it should come up. But you can do that, and that'll be one of the perks of actually being a member. And also, you get to join our Discord, where we talk about anime and video games and movies and shit like this. And they also get a Patreon exclusive episode every month. So there are several episodes of this podcast that are not available anywhere else. And our most recent one was on toys, both childhood toys and adult toys. I had a little.
You love adding the adult toys. The adult toys were mentioned for, I don't even know if it was for a full 60 seconds.
Listen, I went in, okay, I gave websites and everything that I go on to get some adult.
You were so happy about it.
Because it's a part of my, look, I'm an adult, all right? And
like, I don't remember what happened. I mentioned like something, and then you were like, and speaking of that, and you just went into a riff. I was like, what? Good.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind going more into depth on that, but that'll probably be a Patreon exclusive. But yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off camera and figure out how we can finesse that, because this is still a nerdy podcast. But I think nerds, like we did the Kanye West episode, you can nerd out about anything, including sex toys.
That's true. So. That's true. I mean, look, they got them sex toys that are like anime. It's like the ass of an anime character. So you can buy fucking Bulma's ass and just start clapping her ass cheeks. So you can do whatever you want.
All right. Well, as I always say,
if you want to cut this out, you can. But before doing this, like I said, I'm away from my home. Before doing this, my cousin was like, asked me to come out to eat, and I was like, I can't. I got to record my podcast. I was like, today's topic is on Power Rangers. She's like, yeah, okay. Today's topic is Power Rangers. I was like, he was like, today's theme is Power Rangers. You're going to be in the fucking Red Ranger suit, jerking off on camera.
Oh my god!
I was like, what?
Where did that come from?
I don't know, but he got real aggressive.
Where did that come from? Anyway, all right. As I always say, do the things that make you happy. IMNerd Podcast. We are out of here.
Peace.